Let's talk about DeAndre Hopkins once again, a couple interesting NFL rule changes involving a third QB and a flex to Thursday Night Football, and the biggest X factor for the Chiefs offense this upcoming season that could truly be the difference maker. But first, how about those? All right, first up, wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins is back in the news, appearing on the I Am Athlete podcast, and said when it comes to playing for a football team, it's all love for the Cardinals, but at the end of the day, it's a business, and he wants to play for a team with stable management upstairs, a QB who loves the game, which he noted Kyler Murray does love the game, though he is still recovering from knee surgery and won't be playing a chunk of the season, and a team with a great defense. Okay, so stable management, a great defense, and a QB who loves the game. I know a place for you, bud. And the Chiefs definitely are on the list. And while it's unclear if Hopkins will be traded, released, or remain in Arizona, and also his contract/salary is an entire topic of its own, but Hopkins made it clear that Mahomes is one of the 5 QBs in the league he'd love to be catching passes from.
One of my favorite quarterbacks that I've been watching since he came in the league is Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. Number 3, Patrick Mahomes, obviously. Number 4, I'm going to have to go with Lamar Jackson, obviously. Number 5, and I'm going to have to go with my dude in San Diego,
Justin Herbert.
Interesting indeed. It's a very complex situation, and I'm not sure DeAndre Hopkins actually lands in KC. I think the chances of that are pretty low unless he's released, and he really just truly wants to chase a ring no matter what. But I hadn't talked about DeAndre Hopkins for a while, so I figured he was overdue. But next up, phase 3 of the offseason training program started today, which includes organized team activities, OTAs, and involves 11-on-11 drills, yet no contact allowed just yet. And then on Wednesday, Coach Reid and Patrick Mahomes will be speaking to the media. Also wanted to let you know that wide receiver Skyy Moore recently dropped another video on his YouTube channel featuring a bunch of behind the scenes of him working out with Bobby Stroop and catching passes from Mahomes in Texas. And while I was watching, I saw this clip from him and was like, damn! And knew instantly I had to show you all. Here's to hoping for a breakout season from Skyy Moore this season, please. Something else I'm hoping for, which is nearly almost guaranteed to happen, is the Chiefs making the playoffs again for the 9th season in a row. You see, ESPN released their Football Power Index forecasts. They sound like weathermen for the 2023 season, and the Chiefs are given a 77.3% chance to make the playoffs, which is the highest mark of any AFC team and the 3rd highest mark of all NFL clubs. They also have a 55.6% chance to win the AFC West division for the 8th consecutive season. Yes, please. And they're given the 3rd best odds of any team to make the divisional round and conference title game. And let me tell you what, it is a great time to be a Chiefs fan. It's been so many years in a row now of making the playoffs that we almost take it for granted and just expect it. I mean, 8 years in a row, that's the longest active streak in the league, with the Bills coming in second with literally half that, 4 seasons in a row. I mean, Andy Reid is simply the GOAT, plain and simple.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
And something else that is great is definitely my coffee, the HBTC blend from Perna's own Benchwarmer Brew. It's almost leading the pack in coffee sales because of your support, which also means you guys must be enjoying the coffee, so thank you for that. This medium roast from Mexico and Ethiopia has flavor notes of chocolate and citrus, and it really is that good. And if you don't believe me, believe Jim, who recently left a review and said his usual store-bought brand did not compare to the HBTC blend, so he gave those bags to his neighbors and is now set up with what could be the best medium roast he's ever had, one that compares easily to the best of the boutique roasters in his city. And I could not have paid Jim to say something better myself, and I promise I did not pay him to say that. All right, from here, we got to talk about a couple of interesting NFL rule changes that was announced today. First, it was reported that NFL owners passed a bylaw that allows teams to have a 3rd QB in uniform, so a 47th active player on game days in case of a worst case scenario situation like the 49ers in the NFC Championship game. And that was per NFL Network. All teams can now dress 3 QBs moving forward, and here's the key aspect of that rule change. The 3rd QB can only be used if the first 2 quarterbacks are out of the game due to injury. The 3rd QB is ineligible to play because the team is benching QB 1 or 2 because they suck or for conduct. And also, the 3rd QB must be on the 53-man roster. It cannot be a practice squad call-up. And Charles Goldman of Chiefs Wire notes that this rule would be beneficial to a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, who carried 3 quarterbacks on the 53-man roster last season, but made Shane Buechele inactive every single week. So this rule will now allow Buechele, if he's QB3 this year, he could be QB2, I guess. I think it's Gabbert, but that's a convo for another time. It's still great knowing that, considering last season in the divisional round when Mahomes was injured, had to step out for a bit, and Henne took his spot. If Henne would have gotten hurt during that time, Jerick McKinnon would have been QB3. So thank God for this new rule update, because no offense to McKinnon, he's an absolute dog, but I'd much rather have Shane Buechele Shell commanding the offense rather than Jerick McKinnon taking snaps. And then this one dropped right as I was about to record, so I don't have a bunch of detailed notes on it, but the Thursday Night Football flexing proposal, it did get passed. It only applies to weeks 13 through 17, maximum of 2 flexes per season, and 28 days notice is required. It's going to be a high bar, and it's kind of a mess, man. Tom did say the expectation is this will rarely come into play, but having the best games in primetime is a league priority, and this provides some flexibility when needed. It's all about the money, man. Thursday Night Football was kind of a joke at times last season with the teams that were playing together, just boring, and you couldn't flex in or out of it, so they're changing it at least later in the season to more appealing matchups. Not sure that it's actually going to affect the Chiefs, although they were one of the teams, sadly, that did vote for the Thursday Night Football flex to happen and take place. So not cool to me, but I'm just here in my basement reporting on news. There's the news. Let me know your thoughts on the Thursday Night Football flex. Do you agree with it or not? I mean, that means 3 days rest instead of a week. You get 3. Then you do get a mini bye, which Roger Goodell said, well, teams and players have told me they really like the mini bye. But dude, there is no way these players like just 3 days rest and turn around from a Sunday game and play again Thursday. I digress about it, but let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And then PFF dropped an article today taking a look at where all 32 teams currently stand, on paper at least, heading into the 2023 season. And first on this list out of all 32 teams is the No, it's actually the Philadelphia Bulldog Eagles. Then in second, you had the 49ers, and third is the Cincinnati regular season champion Bengals. And then the fourth team overall, remember, this is just on paper, is the Kansas City Chiefs, which is a bit surprising to see them fourth on the list, but even though I just trolled around about teams 1 through 3 on the list, they're all great in their own right, and it's not that wild to see them up there at the top, although I'd probably put the Chiefs a little higher. Anyway, PFF then listed the Chiefs' biggest strength as Patrick Mahomes. 0 surprises there. This man had an MVP season without a true wide receiver 1 and scorched the league for over 5,200 yards and 45 total touchdowns. And I do not need to go down this rabbit hole because we already know about the greatness of Mahomes, and that is not a debate. However, PFF then listed the Chiefs' biggest weakness in 2023 as being their wide receiver room, having lost Juju Smith-Schuster, who played an effective role while in KC, with the apparent replacement at the moment being the second-round pick in Rashee Rice. And that's based on Brett Veach and company's thoughts on how they plan on using him per their own words in their post-draft presser. Now, while PFF lists their biggest weakness being the wide receiver room, they then list the X factor on the team as wide receiver Kadarius Toney, who will have a full offseason with the team's coaches and trainers after being acquired by the team halfway through last season from the Giants. And if you look at the definition of X factor, it's, quote, a variable in a given situation that could have the most significant impact on the outcome, which for the Chiefs, a significant outcome would be big plays and a lot of freaking W's. And given this definition, I truly agree with their assessment here on Kadarius Toney that he is the team's X factor heading into the season, because if this man stays healthy, he's going to be an absolute problem for opposing teams every single week. I mean, in case you forgot, Toney's athleticism score at the 2021 Combine was a 99 overall, literally the same score as Jamar Chase. So not only is he fast, he ran a 4.3940, but he has shown on multiple plays last season that he can go up and get the ball from the sky and come down with it. We've been hyping up Rashee Rice's 41-inch vertical, for example, because it's worth getting hype about for sure. But we can't forget that Toney's vertical is 39.5 inches, and they're about the same height. I mean, this man is an athletic freak of nature that can play a huge role in this season's offense. He can create separation with his speed, has insane yard after catch ability with that Dante Hall-like quickness and agility to literally juke people out of their souls, which sadly can work against him at times because I think he may nearly juke his joints, ligaments, tendons, etc. out of alignment as well. But shoot, if anyone can work with Toney and get his body right, it's going to be the Chiefs medical/training staff. I see a healthy Toney playing a similar role in the offense as Tyreek. And a side note about Tyreek, we got to salute this man and his ability to stay healthy. As much as he's been used, his ability to stay on the field so much has been absolutely incredible. Anyway, while Toney is not Tyreek, okay, that's not what I'm saying. There will never be another Tyreek, he's one of one. Toney is a nightmare of his own because of the Swiss Army knife-like ways you can use him behind the line of scrimmage and pre-snap motions for jet sweeps and direct handoffs, but also in screen passes, ways I mentioned previously already via jump balls and deep passes at times. And then we can't forget that he's a former QB as well, and I would be pretty surprised if we didn't see him at least throw one pass on a trick play this season. And with all that being said, do you agree with PFF's assessment of Toney being the X factor, a player with possibly the greatest biggest chance of impact on the offense for the Chiefs this season, aside from Mahomes, obviously, and Kelsey more than likely? Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments down below, and if you disagree, let me know who the X factor is going to be. Next up on PFF's list for the Chiefs was the rookie to watch, with that player being listed as Rashee Rice, and they say, quote, given the Chiefs' lack of depth at receiver, Rice will get plenty of deep looks. And it's interesting to note that they specifically mention deep looks, even though at times he may play more of a juju role opposite Travis Kelsey, but he really is an effective deep threat, catching more 20-plus yard passes than any other receiver in this draft class with 18 receptions of at least 20 yards. He also placed first with 8 contested catches on deep passes, and the crazy part is he did all this while battling a foot injury for a good portion of the season. So a healthy Rashee Rice is definitely going to be the rookie to watch for me on offense this season. And I know what some of you are thinking. Yeah, that sounds nice, but rookie wide receivers don't really contribute year one in Andy Reid's complex offense. And that's where I humbly submit to you stats from rookie receivers over the years with Andy Reid. Reggie Brown, he had 571 yards and 4 TDs back in 2005. Deshaun Jackson went for 912 yards and 4 TDs in 2008. And 1 year later, Jeremy Maclin had 773 yards and 4 TDs in 2009. And then during Reid's time in Kansas City, the examples are fewer, but Tyreek went for 593 yards and 6 TDs in 2016. And McCole Hardman put up 538 yards and 6 TDs in 2019. And I say all that to say this. It's not impossible for Rashee Rice to have 600 plus yards this year, especially when we look at previous rookies in this offense over the years and see what others have done. And then just looking at the Chiefs wide receiver core right now, if they really do plan on having him play that juju role sooner than later, he's going to get catches and he's going to start to do numbers. Anyway, that PFF article was particularly interesting to me because they named the Chiefs receiver room being the weakness on the roster, yet the X factor and rookie to watch were both wide receivers. I think there's a lot of potential in the room overall, but there are still unproven what ifs about the room for me, such as Toney's long-term health throughout a season, how Skyy Moore's second year in the league is going to look, Rashee's ability to translate into the league as quickly as possible as a rookie, the intrigue of players like Justin and John Ross, and the list goes on. And with OTAs starting today, we will slowly but surely start getting some of these questions answered over the next couple of months. And be sure of this, I will, mark my words, keep you all updated every step of the way. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?